So just for reference, you're seeing this on October 14th. I watched this movie on September 12th. Okay? Couldn't have timed that if I tried, okay? Because it's just in a list of movies. So, oof! Welcome back to Ever Disney Movie Ever. My name is Jess and I'm watching Ever Disney Movie Ever. Today I'm going to talk about Tiger Cruise. Tiger Cruise is a 2004 Disney Channel original movie. It's directed by Duwayne Dunham, cinematography by Robert Seaman, editing by Don Brochu, music by Steve Bramson, and it's written by Anna Sandor and Bruce Graham. The film stars Hayden Panettiere as Maddie, Bill Pullman as Commander Gary Dolan, Bianca Collins as Tina, and Nathaniel Lee Jr. as Anthony. This is based on a true story only in the fact of like the circumstances. So obviously 9/11 happened and the USS Constellation was out on a Tiger Cruise at the time. The characters and story that happens on the ship is all fictional, so only the circumstances are true. For those of you that didn't know what a Tiger Cruise was, same. Had no idea this was a thing. I don't have any family in the Navy. I had no clue. So a Tiger Cruise is exactly how it's portrayed in this movie. A member of the Navy gets to sponsor a family member or loved one to come onto the ship and kind of learn what they do, how the ship works, what they do personally as a crew member of the ship, or what their job is, and I think that's really cool. I had no idea that was the thing. That's really fun. And then the film itself received pretty mixed reviews. People thought it was a pretty standard dcom, just like and other people thought the September 11th attack and all of that being part of it gave it a certain like weight and gravity. The part of the editing in this that really I think was the most effective way to tell this story was the break at each day. So when it says September 9th, boarding of the Tigers or whatever it says, and then it says September 10th, day 1 at sea, and then it skips September 11th because you just witnessed September 11th. Then it says September 12th, day 4, whatever, all that kind of stuff. That like changed the feeling of this movie. It was such a simple thing because everyone knows, and especially in America, everyone knows 9/11, especially in 2004 when it's still kind of fresh. Everyone knows what September 11, 2001 was. So the movie starts and you get a little September 2001 at the bottom and you're like, oh, okay. $10 9/11 happens in this movie, which I shouldn't be betting. It's fine, especially because now it's September 13th. Like, jeez. Okay, anyway, so then the break, like, the movie's kind of like, oh, she's getting on the ship, she's got some problems with her dad, everyone's surprised she's going on the Tiger Cruise compared, when her sister was obviously the one that liked going on the Tiger Cruise, whatever. And then it, like, goes, boom, September 9th, like, time to board or whatever, and you're like, oh, okay, like, it is really close to September 11th, because you don't know what day it is specifically in September, if it's after, if it's before, whatever, and then it's September 9th, you're like, oh, okay, and it gives this, like, intensity that just, you're like, oh, so then when it hits September 10th, you're like, and it's so, like, that was just the perfect choice edit-wise, I think. I think one of the greatest decisions a director and composer can make is when not to have music in a scene. Movies can absolutely be overscored, overcomposed, overmusicked, if you will. And there were so many moments in this movie that they chose not to have any music, and it was so effective because there are moments that speak for themselves. You don't need to add, a lot of the time music helps assist emotions. Sometimes they try to add music to help tell you how to feel. And you know how I feel about that. Most of the time music is just supposed to like kind of help you and hug you in that emotion or whatever else, or help evoke a certain emotion of a character or whatever else it might be. Fear, sadness, love, happiness, whatever. Anger. But there, especially in 2004 when 9/11 was still so fresh, everyone in 2004 remembers where they were, besides like 3-year-olds. So, and when they heard about it, you don't need the music to tell you how to feel. everyone knew how they felt. You didn't need the music to help you. And they didn't need the music to help them. Like, you could see it in all of their faces. And I think that was such the right choice to not overcompose or overforce the emotion when it's 2004. It's 3 years after these attacks. We were still very much in the heat of it. I'm sure there was still travel restrictions, still, there's still technically travel restrictions because of 9/11 and all that kind of stuff. So I think it was an excellent choice not to have too much music, score-wise, specifically. I think one of the things they do, which at the very, very beginning feels a little expository, but not too bad, but I do think one of the great things they set up is like this mystery of why Maddie has suddenly decided she's gonna do this tiger cruise. They set up very, right away, and then a lot, that Maddie has never gone on a tiger cruise. She never wanted to go on a tiger cruise. She wanted nothing to do with a tiger cruise. Her sister has obviously gone on a tiger cruise pretty much more than once, it sounds like, and now Maddie has up and decided that she wanted to be the one to go, and they're all, excited but wary. And I think they did a great job setting that up, because it obviously looks like she also doesn't want to go but said she would go, and it sets up this really great mystery of okay, what's the problem? Is it she never gets to see her dad and she's salty at him, or what is the story there? So I think they did a great job setting that up. Then the scene pretty early on, which I thought was going to be a scene much later in the movie, so I was a little bit oh, where are we gonna go from here then? Where she pleads with him to quit. She's we never see you. People tell me all the time about how their dad yell at them, whatever, and all I think is shut up, you're so lucky because you have your dad around and my dad's never around, blah, blah, blah. So I didn't know the route they were gonna go until this scene, because it's pretty early for this scene to happen, but it's such a good scene between Hayden and Bill. They do a fantastic job. And in that scene, I went, okay, so she's going to beg him to come home. He will either say yes or think about it. And then she's going to see how he is during the September 11th attack and change her mind, probably, which was the prediction. But oh man, it was just a great scene. It was just yes. And then, I'm going to say this here instead of, in my opinion, because I think it kind of applies to the writing. I think this is the only movie so far that I have genuinely felt it needed to be longer. This movie could have benefited from being a 2-hour movie, because there's a lot to unpack there, and I feel they really could have explored her and her dad's relationship, and then all the other, the side characters, Anthony with his brother, and then Tina with her sister, those relations, how Tina idolizes her Grace, I think her name is, her sister, where Anthony is, I don't freaking get it, I hate this, I don't want to be here. With his brother, we're we see it a little bit and we get that, which is great, but we could have had so much more, which would have been good. And then we could have also had so much more of Maddie being there for all the tigers and being that liaison that her dad had asked her to be. I feel it could have punched everyone in the gut if it could have been a 2-hour movie, because it's pretty good writing wise, that I feel if they had had more room, it could have been incredible. Bill Pullman being in this is so exciting to me. I also the only things I know Bill Pullman from right away off the bat in my brain, Casper and Spaceballs. So this is so different than those two roles that for a second I thought he was a bad actor, because he just seems so stiff and whatever, and then I was oh no, but he's really good in Spaceballs and Casper, and those roles are the complete, well, I wouldn't say Casper's the complete opposite of this role, but is different than this. So I have to just be okay, no, he did great, because it is completely different than how he was in those other two movies. So yeah, and then Hayden, so incredible, not surprising at all, it's Hayden Panettiere. And then the biggest shock, because right now, around when I'm watching this, Jeanette McCurdy's book about her mom and the abuse she went through just came out, so that's all I've been seeing all I've been seeing is like her interview on the Red Table Talk with Jada Pinkett Smith and them, and her interview on like Good Morning America or something where they're reading from her book and they're talking about like who she calls the creator, like Dan Schneider, or all the abuse she went through with her mom, and like all this kind of stuff is all at the forefront right now. So then for me to see Jeanette McCurdy as the little sister in this movie, I was like, oh my god, this is probably like one of the first big break thingies she got. And like all I could think about when I saw her on screen was how much she didn't probably want to be there and how much her mom was like forcing her to be there. And also I was like, is she 11 yet? Did her mom start counting her calories, doing calorie restriction? Like, have they started the anorexia? Like, I literally, the fact that I was like thinking about all of that because poor Jeanette McCurdy, poor Jeanette McCurdy, that made my heart sad. So crazy to see her in this, especially like at the time. Like, it wouldn't have been crazy to see her in this like months ago. I would have been like, oh, Jeanette McCurdy. But like now that her book has come out and like all this kind of stuff, and it's all right now. It's happening right now, all of this. Spooky time. There is so much green screen in this movie, which isn't a bad thing. It's pretty advanced green screen. Like they had things in front and things in back and things all over it. So much green screen. My biggest complaint about the green screen is everyone's green halo or green reflection on their face. I think it was the worst in that scene between Maddie and her dad, where she's like, I want you to quit. I want you to be home for good. Like, we miss you too much, blah, blah, blah. So I feel like that was the scene where it was the worst, because Bill Pullman had like green on his face, and then Hayden's hair, they couldn't get the green like all the way out of her hair, so her hair has some green screen in it, and then like everyone's got the green screen halo. So it was really advanced in the fact that like they used it a lot, and it is for sure passable. Like, it's pretty decent, but you could definitely see the halo and the green reflection. I knew that this movie was going to be a little bit better of a dcom based on, this is so stupid, but based on the exchange between Maddie and the old lady on the airplane with Tina. It's such a simple moment, but it's so real and genuine that I was like, oh, this is going to be a little bit higher level of a dcom, because she's sitting next to Anthony, and he's drumming and she's annoyed, so she decides to try and move to an open seat on the plane, which you can't do anymore, obviously. So she goes and is like, that seat taken, and this old lady has already been so annoyed by Tina just like nonstop talking, and this lady's like a little relieved that Maddie's about to sit down, so Maddie sits down and then Tina won't shut up, and Maddie looks at the old lady, and the old lady looks at her like, man. Then Maddie is like over it, and the moment between that old lady, who's a perfect stranger, not in the movie for the rest of the movie, like whatever, and Maddie is so real. Like, you know that saying where it's like nothing brings people together faster than mutual hatred? Like, it's like that almost. So that moment had to be not scripted. It had to be the director saying like, hey, why don't you shoot her? Look, like something. I don't know. It elevated the quality of the movie because of how real and genuine that moment is, that I was like, oh, okay, this movie's gonna be pretty good. Like, it's gonna be pretty higher quality for a dcom. Then, so much of this gave me, like, just like I don't know how to explain this, but it gave me like a 70s movie vibe, because specifically when they were boarding the boat and they were all like finding their little bunks and all that kind of stuff, there was something about it that just like had, like, it wasn't like, there was funny moments, like the guy asking the kid if he wets the bed, like that's like funny, and the kid pulling out the soda like, oh no, of course not, and he's like, unless I have too much soda, and then he starts drinking the soda, which is funny, but there was like this seriousness to all of them like boarding the boat and everything. Boat, I keep saying boat, people are gonna kill me. Ship, they're boarding the ship, the aircraft carrier. It just gave me like very serious 70s movie vibes, or like Titanic vibes, which is not the 70s, that's in the 90s, but still, which also gave it like this intensity and gravity and weight. So I think they did a good job of setting up like, it is a kids movie, here's some like cute little jokes, but we are going to be talking about something very serious, which I think they did a good job of doing. The events happening. So I was homesick on 9/11. I was about to be 8 years old. My birthday's the 19th. So I was about to be 8 years old, and I'm homesick. I'm in the bathtub. So I legitimately cannot imagine being at school, being out and about, being on a tiger cruise when this happens, because I was home. I was at my dad's house in the bathtub, and all I heard was my dad screaming from downstairs. And so I got like out, I got dressed, and I went downstairs, and I was like, what's going on? And they were trying to explain it to me, but I'm like 7 going on 8. So like, I don't really understand what's happening. I just knew that like my dad and stepmom were like distraught over it. And I remember like seeing it on the TV, but then I think they like took me upstairs to my room and put on like a cartoon for me or something. Like I don't fully remember, but I remember seeing the towers burning on television. And crumbling. I do remember seeing that. So like, I was home. I was home safe. Like I was sick, but like, I was home. There were kids at school. My brother was in high school, or going into high school. Like, he would have just started his freshman year of high school, I think, actually. So, like, my brother's a freshman in high school, and, like, announcements come over. Like, I can't imagine that. So I definitely can't imagine being on a naval aircraft carrier when 9/11 happens. That's so scary, so insane. Like, I can't imagine what all those people were thinking and going through and all of that kind of stuff. So I just wanted to touch on that. That's crazy. The moment where, you know, Maddie has been so strong for all the tigers, all the young kids are like going to her and everything. She's been so strong for them. She has a moment with her dad where she breaks down and says she's scared. Your girl sobbed. You guys know how I feel. I don't like when kids grow up too fast. I like kids to be kids. But I also am like a huge sucker for kids that like are strong for other kids but then break down with their parent. Ooh, it gets me every time. It makes me so emotional. There's something so real and beautiful about that vulnerability. Like, you are strong and you stay strong, but you break down where you feel the safest. Ugh! I'm gonna cry. It's so good. So I cried. A good one. That's everything I have for Tiger Cruise. Genuinely, and I mean it, I wish this movie had been 2 hours and explored much more. I think this could have been such an amazing, moving story. Not that it isn't. It is very good. I was affected, obviously, and it was a very sweet, touching story of how they all came together and everything like that, and the dad, and how she sees him being, like, you know, this hero and leader, and is like, you should keep doing what you're doing. It's very sweet. But I really wish it could have been more, and no, it's not bad. I really enjoyed this movie, so the fact that I'm saying I wanted more, I want it to be more, like, is a good thing in this scenario. I know some other movies, I'm like, I wanted more, I wanted to be more, so I was disappointed. I'm not disappointed. I liked this movie. I wanted more of it. Okay, that's everything. My final rating is 8 American flags. Sorry. Out of 10. Alright, it's over. Our total movie count is... Parent death toll and cry count are still the same. The only death that we have confirmed is 2 characters, like brother and uncle. So it's not a parent that we know of. So, and it wasn't a main character, so it shouldn't count anyway. Okay. If you want to keep up... Oh, and cry count's the same too. No, our total... Oh, it isn't! Our cry count is... Okay, if you want to keep up with the movie I'm watching, follow me on Instagram or Twitter. You'll find out what movie I'm watching when I put out videos every Monday and Friday and sometimes Wednesday. Join Patreon. I got a tier starting at just $1 where you can get these special videos a week early. And you can get a coupon code for merch. Lots of other tiers too with lots of other fun benefits. Until next time, comment, like, subscribe. I'm not in charge of your life. You are, so you do. And don't be... I think it goes without saying a little bit, right? Okay.